You're listening to She's the Business podcast.
Have you ever had that feeling where you get a great idea and you've got so much energy and inspiration that's driving you to just get started on doing it? Then you start and suddenly, it is feeling so hard. Well, that's a sign that you are probably a visionary by type, as in that's your natural place of being. And to be fair, most of us entrepreneurs are people who have great visions. The ideas come easily. We get inspired by them, we get excited by them. But that's not the only thing that you need to have a successful business. We also need that implementer. We need the action, the doer. And how can you be both? Well, this episode today is all about how you can be both. And how do we make it easy when it's not your natural way of being to be the implementer, to be the doer, to be the action taker? Stay tuned because you're definitely going to want to hear this one today.
Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration.
Today's very special guest is the lovely Olivia Clare, who is the founder of Crystal Vision. Now, Olivia is an online business coach, and she specializes in helping people to remove all the complexity of online business and actually just get to the core of what they need to get going so that they can simplify it, so that they can actually create the vision in their mind and turn it into a reality. Olivia is an integrator as well as a coach and owner of her own business, so she knows very well how to wear both hats, how to be the ideas person, the visions person, and also how to take those ideas and put them into action, create that reality so that we can bring it to life. So she's got a lot of really great value to share with us today about how to find the simplicity in your business, in your day, in your life, so that we can get to the end goal that we're all aiming for. So without further ado, let me play this interview for you. Okay, and I'm here right now with Olivia Clare. Olivia, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a real pleasure, and I can't wait to get into everything about how we can bring more simplicity into our business because, gosh, don't we need simplicity these days? Everything is just so much, so busy, so many things to think about. My brain is full. I'm not sure about yours, but welcome.
Thank you. Yes, my brain can definitely be full and overwhelmed sometimes, hence me using these principles. Otherwise, I would not get out of my email inbox every single day. I'd be stuck there for hours and hours and hours.
So true. Now, would you like to give us a quick 1-minute intro to who you are and what you do in your business?
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. Thanks for listening today. I am Olivia Clare. I am an online business expert, and I've been in business for the past 3 or 4 years now. I started working as an inquiries assistant in a local business and then was quickly upgraded to executive manager because I fell in love with everything about business, everything about systems, everything about processes. And then in 2021, I started my online business journey. I started one business and then another. So as you can tell, sometimes I'm all over the place. Hence, there's also the visionary in me, sort of, I guess, not letting myself be confined to either one and letting myself be flowy and also really enjoy integrated stuff like systems and processes has meant that I've been able to identify what really works for me and my business and scaling, and that is simplicity. So that's what we're going to talk about today, because I think we can so oftentimes get overwhelmed by, I love talking about like, oh my God, I need a website before I can start making money. And it's like, no, you don't. You just need you and a bank account. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, amazing. I so relate to that as well, because I think a lot of us start a business when we've already been working in businesses. So we come to business with a predefined view or vision on what a real business is like and what it has and all of these things. And you think you've got to go around setting it all up before you can get started. But like you said, actually, what do you really need? You might need a computer. You might need Zoom if you're going to do online sessions. You need a bank account and a way for people to pay you. That's pretty much it, right?
That's all you need.
Service. So yeah, keeping it simple is great. And I'd love to have a dive into, I guess, you mentioned the word integrator.
Yes.
Now, this is a term that is common in the online business world, because I think a lot of us who start a business, we are the ideas people. We've got a vision. We're like, yes, oh my goodness, I can see how I can help people. I'm going to start a business. And so we get busy doing that. And then suddenly you're like, oh, this is feeling really hard and heavy. And often this is the time that an integrator comes into the mix. Once we're there, we're seeing the need for support. So could you explain in your words, because you'll do a much better job of it than I will, what is an integrator and what is the benefit in having one in a business?
Yes. So integrator is a term that's generally used in online business and particularly in the entrepreneurial world. So you could fairly easily swap the word integrator for manager, online business manager, product manager, anything like that. It's just someone who essentially implements the vision of a company, of a business. And so the term integrator specifically comes from the EOS system, which is the entrepreneurial operating system. Oh, very boring for all of our visionaries out there. EOS is just a system. There's a book about it. You can read about it and you can implement their specific way, essentially, of doing online business. But what I find it interesting about the visionary integrator relationship or world, if you will, is that it sort of creates room for the visionary. So sometimes when we look at businesses, we think, oh, CEO, like that's the top, that's where we want to be. And CEOs are often the visionary. And then you have the COO, which is the chief operating officer, and they're the integrator, right? So you always need in a business, and sometimes you'll have to be both, right? When you're first starting out, you might have this big visionary brain and all you care about is the ideas and making your products as good for your customers as possible. And that's really important. But you're not going to be able to implement that unless you have some systems, unless you have some ways of doing so, some sort of technical skill, particularly if you're working in online business. And so as much as it's good to have these ideas, there needs to be a way for you to implement them. Otherwise, you're going to get dragged down into the bog and be like, this is too hard. I'm running away forever. I've definitely felt like that before. I'm sure we all have. So let me know if you want me to go into that a little bit deeper. But that's probably how I would describe an integrator.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. And I think it's, you mentioned it sort of really drags you down. And I think that for the visionaries, if we talk about human design, and I'm by no means a human design expert, but I'm always interested in learning a bit more about myself and about why some things feel easy. What's my natural state? What's my natural way of being? And the fact that other people aren't the same as me, it's like, wow, this is actually kind of mind-blowing, isn't it? We're not all built the same. And I'm a manifesting generator, which I think you mentioned that you are as well. So
yes.
Really interesting, because we love, manifestors, we love the vision. And, the more manifestor you are, I guess, the more visionary you are. But the actual implementation, the doing the systems, while we might, and I tend to be that person that has the vision of it, like I can see how this could be done and I've got all that, but then actually get me to do the work and put it in place and use the spreadsheets and use the systems. I'm like, oh, is there a faster, easier way? Because I really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm already off to the next thing. And so I think that if you're listening thinking, oh gosh, it sounds a bit like me as well, maybe you might be a manifestor or a manifesting generator that's kind of more manifestor than generator, and be very comfortable in that vision space. And it's okay. It's okay that it feels hard and that it feels a bit draining to be doing these processes. That's actually just a sign that it's outside of your human design. And maybe you would do really well with your number 2, which is your operations person, which which is like your integrator. And certainly I've found that in my business, my goodness, I know exactly what to hire for, because I don't want another person like me who just has the vision and wants to do all of the visionary stuff. I need the person that can see what I want done and actually get it done, like put it in place and make it happen. So yeah, these two roles, they're so important, aren't they? And how they work together. Now, you actually do a bit of both. So tell me how that works. How do you switch from one to the other? Because I'm really curious about that.
So oh gosh, I don't even know. Sometimes I kind of think like, I think it's in the movie Up where there's the dog and he constantly is just sitting there and then he's like, oh, there's a squirrel. Like that's what I feel like sometimes. I can get really, really distracted in a good way. And we see this actually for a lot of our visionaries, right? It's called shiny object syndrome. So a lot of us will have this idea. And then as soon as the idea is sort of, I guess, being created, we're like, oh, wait, what's the next thing we want to do, right? And in business doesn't work. We need one idea that we stick to, that we continue to develop, and that we are patient and persistent with. We can't constantly switch up our offers all the time because our audience are going to get confused. So sometimes if you are a visionary, you will feel this really big urge to switch all the time like I do. And I'm sure I've heard other coaches. I mean, it sort of goes around everywhere. You need to stick with it. You need to be patient. You need to be persistent. You need to continue to work with what you already have versus, oh, well, that didn't work. Let me shut it all down and move on to the next thing. And so I definitely have that side of me, and I work as an integrator for other businesses. I work freelance, and like I said, am the integrator for a few different businesses. I like having many things to do at once. So I do that whilst also being the visionary and the integrator in my own business. And so when I am creating an idea in my business, I can see the vision. I can see how I want it to look. And sometimes I get the same as all other visionaries. I'm like, I don't really want to like create all the links for this, or I don't want to think about what the structure of this idea being put into a plan would look like. But most of the time that excites me as well. For me, I guess it's like I see the vision and I also get really excited about the details in creating it and watching it come to life and being able to set up something that's sustainable, automated, or just written down so I don't have to think about it anymore. My mind kind of goes like a race course all the time, just thinking and thinking and thinking. So when I can write stuff down and see the flow and see the plan, I'm like, you just do that nice little sigh, like, oh, that feels so good. So I guess that is why I love talking to people about visionary integrator stuff, because I am both in a sense, which is common. You might be listening to this and thinking, oh, I enjoy creating the vision, but I also enjoy implementing it and creating those systems. You can be both. And being both is kind of a gift in a way, because when I work with integrators, I can see their vision, I can see their frustration, and I can see their overwhelm, and I can take that and translate it. You will find you have integrators, true integrators, you will present them with your grand vision and they're like, what are you talking about? I don't even understand. Like, we can't do this. I can be a little bit creative and sort of sit in both. But yeah, I guess that's just how my brain works. It's just always on 10 different things at once.
So when we're having these ideas, like what are some of the things that someone's sitting there thinking, I do that all the time. I have the ideas and I've got a lot of energy right at the beginning, right? Because you see the vision, you're like, I've got this great idea. I can see exactly how it can work. This is going to be awesome. And then you start doing, and then the energy and the motivation really drops. And then you're on to the next shiny thing, because suddenly you've got all your energy there. And so that's that urge, right? That you were talking about. We've got that urge to follow the next thing because our energy has dropped when we're in the implementation phase and we're like, oh, I need that thing to make me excited again.
Yeah.
So what are your ways that you pull yourself back, that you go, no, we need to focus on one thing. What are some of the things that you look for or do? Because I guess being somebody like this myself, I know exactly what it's like. When you have those ideas, at the time you're having them, you're like, this is the best idea. Like, I have to do it. This has now become the number one priority. And so you're like, not only moving the goalpost for yourself all the time, you're switching focus, you're switching gears. And every time you do that, you're actually slowing your business down by an absolute mile. So if someone's sitting there going, oh, I do that, what can you do to, I guess, have that measured approach and maybe even coach yourself through it? How do you What do you do?
So there's a few different ways you can do this. If you have a team, that's great. Like if you are the visionary and you have your number two, or you have your COO, or you have your integrator, and you might just need to have a conversation with them and say, hey, I'm going to come to you probably once a month with something completely new. And you need to stop me and slow me down and tell me to like just relax and we can table this for next quarter, right? So if you have a team, that's great. If you're like a lot of people, you're a solopreneur, you're trying to do all things at once, and it's really hard, like you said, to make any traction at all if we don't stick with something, right? And I'm not saying what you stick with, please don't stick with a product or an offer. If you're not seeing any progress with it, you probably need to maybe pivot a little bit or market it a little different and continue to test it that way. But coming up with a completely new business idea every single month and throwing the offer that you originally had right out the window and chasing this new one is not going to get your business anywhere. And this is the distinction that I think is very important, is when we are solopreneurs, when we are by ourselves working in a business, we think that the business is us, and it's not. The business is a business and you are the staff, you are the team, you are doing the things for the business. So what a business needs is what we spoke about before, one or whatever offers that you have, but that stay the same, persistence, continual testing, patience with the process. And so when we have those ideas, I think what's important is to sit down, to slow down, to note the ideas, right? Don't feel like, oh my God, I've done it again. I'm being bad. I've come up with a new business idea. Oh my gosh, just note it. Maybe you want to come back to it in a month. Maybe you want to come back to it in 2 months, but put it to the side. Continue working on what you're currently working on. And next month, when you have your sort of deep dive, or next quarter or whatever it is, come back to the idea. And if it still feels really good, because I mean, that's mainly what the whole process is, right? We just get excited about it. And sometimes if we leave it for a little bit and we come back to it, we're like, I don't know if I want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So if you just table it, let yourself come up with those ideas. It's so important, right? The more ideas you have, the more ideas you will have. So let them come, have a little notes folder, and then come back to it. It's not going anywhere. A couple months is not going to make a big difference, except for the fact that you will probably gain traction. The other thing I would suggest, and this is something I see a lot, is oftentimes what we want to teach or what we want to sell is not always what does really well. So I'm working with someone at the moment and she's like really wants this digital product to work, and she's having these other products that are selling, and she's like, oh my gosh, like why am I getting annoyed that it's these other products that I don't really care about that are doing really well? And that's when you have to sort of take a step back and look at it from the business perspective. What does the business need? What product, no matter how much you like it, is selling really well? And how can you continue to work with that product for the business? So it's a bit tricky. It's like 50% follow your joy, do what you love, and also at the same time, be conscious of what the business needs. The business is its own entity in itself, separate to you. It has its own ideas. It has its own spirit. How can you work with your business? How can you work with the spirit of your business to do what's best for both of you? So I would suggest overall just write down your idea, write down what you're getting excited about, and then come back to it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think feeling like you've actually captured that idea means that it's real, it's there, it's not forgotten. So you don't have to keep going round and round in your head thinking about it. You've captured it and it's there, but actually to then say, right, I don't just act on it immediately. Like you said, if you have a monthly sit down, let's do a planning session, figure out what's the goals for the month, or quarterly. I prefer to do quarterly because a month goes by pretty quickly in my life, but to do a quarterly plan. And that's when you can look at those ideas and be like, right, is this going to help me achieve the goal that I want for my business? Or is it a distraction? Or is it actually a really great idea that maybe I should do another time? This isn't the time now. And I think it's like you said, when we can separate the emotion out of it and maybe get off that initial wave that we have of dopamine or whatever's going on physiologically, because we get excited, right? You have this idea and it sparks all this energy and excitement. And when you can kind of go, right, we're going to capture it in that moment so that it's there. We've got it. Now it's stored. We haven't thrown it away. We've just got it stored and we can come back to it. And if you still feel that way about it, then, that's a really good sign, isn't it? It's like it must be telling you that this is something to look at. And I think something else that came up for me while you were talking then was, maybe it's the difference between testing versus testing an idea versus what would be the other thing, like shifting directions, like
pivoting.
Yeah, because I see people actually physically pivoting their business and jumping everything over, whereas it's like, well, if you've got a new idea, it can be a really good idea just to test it, do a little test of it without shifting the whole business and ship in that direction, like see whether it is going to be the thing, if it does resonate. Because what if you go and shift everything and then nobody cares about it? It's just been a great idea that maybe is a good idea, but maybe not right now or whatever. It's so much energy and time in doing all of that, moving behind the scenes, when it may be faster, easier and simpler just to test it first. The whole throw it out there, see if anyone's biting.
And I think the other thing as well is testing something there that I wanted to say. It may have left me.
Testing versus pivoting, because we were talking about
pivoting. Yes. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. So I think as well, just noticing how many or how often new ideas come to you, right? So if you're like, okay, this is my once a quarter new idea, I want to throw everything out of the window and restart. You can, sort of look at it that way and go, cool, I'm going to note that down, come back to it. But I think because sometimes when we get those ideas, particularly as a visionary, right, but like you said, there's physiological changes. You get so excited and then your brain starts to think like, no, this is it. This is what's going to make me wealthy, or this is what's going to make me successful, or this is going to be the thing. And the truth is that you are what is going to make the business successful, right? The business is going to find its own success. So I think having a bit more, taking the emotion out of it, like you said, and being like, there it is, my once a month life-changing idea. She's back. Let's write it down and come back to it in a few weeks. I think will help you sort of distinguish what is an idea you really, really want to work on, and what's something that's come from the spirit of your business, and what's just another idea that's sort of come up, right? Because we do have it. Oh my God, I have so many ideas that I've written down, and I come back to it like a couple months later and I think, oh my God, I don't want to do that. And then I have other ones where I think, no, I think that's something that would be really good for this business. So learning to distinguish that, having discipline. And I think what's also really important is we think that saying yes to everything is really empowering. Oh, I've got a new idea, I should do this. It is more empowering to say, no, I'm going to continue to focus on what the business needs. I'm going to streamline my focus and make this product successful. Like that is also very, very empowering, that no later sort of movement.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is hard. This is a muscle that we've got to work on, don't we? And like really practice to use, because when you are that kind of person, you're an ideas person, that's where you get your energy. It feels really good to be following your ideas and actually taking action. And people are like, yes, you have to take action to get clarity. It's like, yes, you do. But if you're always taking new actions in all different directions, you're not getting any clearer. You're actually getting more and more lost, more and more foggy. So, I'm a really big believer in, I think we're very kindred spirits on simplicity, 100%. Like I do not write big long plans. I like a 1-page plan, maybe 2 pages at max. And one of the ones that I get my clients to do, it's like, let's map out your whole year just on this 1 page. It's got 4 boxes. So each quarter you've got one core focus. What is that focus this quarter? It can be the same. If you've got one core focus for your business all year, great. Each quarter you're going to be focusing on that thing, but set yourself the goal. And then, it's that question, which is so simple, you can almost do to yourself, is like, is this helping me achieve that goal? And if the answer is not a yes, if it's a no, then why are you considering it? You've got to kind of ask yourself, well, where does this come from? Why am I even thinking about it? It might be there, like you say, a bit of inspiration, but if you've set that goal and that's your goal for the quarter, you've got to have a pretty good reason to change it, right? If it's not going to be helping you get to that goal. So I think that's important. And there was one thing that came up as you were talking about the spirit of your business and how you feel these things. I love that idea of thinking, well, how often do I have these ideas? And is this my crazy idea for the month.
Yeah.
What is also, I find, is fear disguises itself as inspiration. So, our old enemy, fear. So I want you to also be aware of when are you having these ideas and what has just happened. So what are you present to right now in your business? What is the context within you having this idea? Because what I find is people get into a place where they're starting to panic. There's something that's going on. It's not going right. And so your brain is trying to protect you, and it's going, boom, well, you could do this, or you could do that, or that niche must not work. That means that you need to change the niche, or you need to broaden, or you need a different service. And like, whoa, okay, let's just calm down a moment, because this is our old little enemy. The fear has got dressed up as this fantastic idea. You can imagine fear is like the Grinch, and he's put on the beautiful dress and he's pretending to be maybe Mrs. Claus, because I said a dress, but anyway, it's like he's all dressed up as something that's not. And if we can become aware of when we have those ideas, is it actually just our brain trying to protect us from what it's thinking would be a failure, when actually changing tact all the time is probably the fastest way to failure that we could have, because you're just going to end up exhausted and nowhere. Whereas often if we can just keep that bit of consistency, like you say, with a program, it's your one main program. You're not changing it all the time. Like I've now been running Business Jam for a few years. People know that I run that, and they're getting to know what it is. And I've got people who've been in my last 3 launches who've just purchased. So it's like, not everyone just does it instantly. You've got to give it time. You've got to be patient and keep it going. Like, of course I do improvements and I make it better, but I'm not changing it. I'm not changing the core premise of it. I'm not changing what it is. It's still the program, with the promise that it began with. And I think that, so much gold in what you said there about just having that consistency, and it's okay. So actually, let's be creative around that. How could I do this better? How could I reach more people, instead of changing the outfit, changing everything instead?
And asking yourself, what would happen to this offer that I already have if I channeled my energy of creating something completely new into making it the way that I want to be, or creating the success that I want from this one thing that I've already taken the time and the energy to create. So I love that. And I think that's such a good point, noticing the context around your new idea. And like you said, it could be something from the ego. This could be your last launch before your product goes to 6 figures, and your ego is trying to say, oh, no, let's switch it up because you're getting close now, right? So I love that perspective. That's very powerful. I don't know if any of you had a breakthrough, but I had a breakthrough while you were talking, Jessica. So
awesome. So now thinking about simplicity in business. So if you were to give our listeners, maybe 3 of the things to take away and remember from this chat, what would you say in order to just make it easier to be simple? How can we be more simple in our business?
Yeah, I think simplicity is sort of a concept that you can really take into everyday life. It's been one of my secrets now for a little while. I've just been testing. I've been testing it in my business. I test it in my personal life. I test it in my relationships. And it's anytime I'm feeling overwhelmed, or anytime I'm feeling like, and we all have those feelings in business, right? This is too hard. I'm scared. I don't want to do it. I feel so drained. And when I have those feelings, I think, how am I making this hard for myself? How can I make this more simple, right? So for example, I have a little bit going on in my personal life in terms of family, and one of my family members is very sick right now. So I had that, and I also had a launch planned. And so I was like, wow, the idea of showing up live, that feels really, really draining. And I feel like I want to completely avoid it, and I don't even want to do it. And integrity is an important value of mine. So I said to myself, okay, how can I stay in integrity with what I promised, and also honor the fact that this does not feel good for me right now? So I said, how am I making this difficult for myself? What can I do? And that really, first of all, gets us creative. It gets us into problem solving mode, rather than just, once again, throwing it all out the window, right?
Yeah.
And so when I applied the principles of simplicity, when I asked myself this, I thought, well, I don't need to do a live launch. It feels really good to me to just sit down with my slides, film this, and then send out the link. And that's what I did. And then all of a sudden I managed to launch. I had everything I needed without feeling like, oh my God, I can't do this. Oh my God, I don't want to talk to people. Like, do you know what I mean? And I even had like part of my marketing was to be able to work with people live on the call. And I said, I still don't have the capacity to do that this week. But what I can do is give them a link to my Calendly where they can book a one-on-one and we can do that there. Right. And so I think it's just being creative rather than, again, completely just tossing it out. You might have these feelings. I see it so often with new business owners and new coaches. Oh my God, how do I sell on social media? This is terrifying. I don't want to post. I don't want to show up. I have to do the reels. I have to do the TikToks. I have to show my face. I don't feel like it. And it's like, well, you can ask yourself, how am I making this difficult? And I think what comes from that as well is thinking that there's one right way to do something when there's not. What's most important is integrity and consistency. So how can I consistently show up on social media? Showing my face feels really hard right now. Doing a reel, that feels impossible. I'm just going to do feed posts. And so you'll find that you manage to build that consistency and build your way there rather than just avoiding it for months and months and months and then being like, okay, now I'm finally ready to film a reel. Like you could have completely built up your social media by then. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No,
like,
it's brilliant. I love that. I think we do sometimes, we're looking at the whole mountain, right? And going, how do we even climb this? Like it's enormous. It's like, well, you don't have to climb it all in one step. Just take one step onto the mountain. And by the time you're getting there, you will have already come so far that you won't have even realized. And yes, it is like that. You don't have to do it all. So what would make it feel easy and good for you right now? Is it doing one post a week? It's great.
Exactly.
Start there.
That's like, better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a whole lot better than where you are right now if you're doing nothing. And yeah, I think we always think we need all of the things. We need it all connected, and getting to that point where you're like, wow, this is starting to feel really difficult and you're feeling tired and drained by even the thought of it. Yeah, that one question, how could I make this easier? What am I thinking that I need that I don't actually? Like it's not necessary. It's a nice to have, but what could I remove that makes this more simple? Because every time we do it, we can improve on it, right? Just do it, get it done. Next time, maybe you've got some stuff there that's not as hard because you've already done all the thinking this time. Like you can look at adding on or improving or adding something else in, because I mean, I don't know, I've been in marketing for 24 years. Honestly, I've like always, every time I do anything, I'm always going, oh, that could be so much better. And like improve on it every single time, every time. Like there's never been a time I think I did absolutely everything I possibly could ever do and there's no way I could improve on it. Like that's never happened in my entire life. So just to even think that that's something we should be aiming for, it's kind of impossible to achieve. So you're setting yourself an impossible target, an impossible goal. Let's just go that one step. Like, how can we make this easier? What is it that we can do? How could I do this? If I want to do social media, what could I do that would feel okay right now? Yeah, you're so right. And it's getting yourself in that right space to be doing it too, because when it feels good and it feels easy, don't you think you'd be showing up with so much more energy and just a much better feel than something that's feeling like a drag. Like everyone's going to know that it feels like a drag because you'll have no energy going into it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing, like, obviously it's again that balance, because we can say, oh, well, I said I'm going to do a live launch, or I said I'm going to do a launch. I have to do it this way. Otherwise it's wrong. And then, like you said, you show up and you're like, oh my God, I really don't want to be here. And everyone who's watching you is like, she seems kind of off today. Whereas when I decided that I wasn't going to do it live and I was just going to record it, I had all the energy. I felt really good because I was staying in integrity. And I think what's so important as well is to show your audience, particularly if you're a coach, that they can do it too, right? Their business can be something that they build that suits them, that doesn't have to feel draining. They don't have to be forced into doing things that they don't want to do. They can, move outside of their comfort zone, right? Which is what we're trying to do, but not trying to do everything at a time. And I think so often in this space, we have overachievers and perfectionists. So I think taking this simplicity step helps us get out of that overwhelm, helps bring us back to what we really, really need. And we can find that we can slow down and make the progress, because otherwise I mean, I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? All or nothing. Oh my goodness. I either have to do it with everything, all the steps, all the tech integrated, Facebook ads, or I'm not doing it at all. And I find making it simple, taking a step back and slowing down, that's what actually business is made of, right? That's how businesses make money, is they start small and they build up. We're not building the Eiffel Tower, we're not building the Empire State Building, right? One story. Let's start at one story and then let's continue.
Yeah. And when you do it one story at a time, you'll be surprised how many stories you build really quickly.
And you have a strong foundation.
Yeah. And there was something that you were just saying there a moment ago about, you'd said you were going to do a live launch and then you were feeling really bad because you didn't want to do it. And what would people think about it? Now, this is, wouldn't you say, one of the biggest, I don't know what we call it, like a barrier, a block that happens so commonly, because in your mind, you're like, well, I've said I'm going to do a live launch and then everyone will know that I'm not doing what I said. And, blah, blah, we're making it into this giant thing. And when you actually sit back and look at it, you kind of say to yourself, well, is anyone else really paying that much attention to what I've said? Does anyone else really care whether I do a live launch or if I give them that same content, which is what they signed up for? Like, I'm giving it to them in a different format. They're still getting what I promised. They're still getting the return on the thing that they signed up for. And it's so funny, isn't it? Because I catch myself, I'm now very practiced at catching myself doing that kind of thing, but it took a while to kind of get present to it and going, does anyone else even know? Do they pay attention? No, because their whole life and their brain is full of all their stuff. They're not sitting there paying that close attention to what you're doing. So you can kind of go, it's okay because no one will even know.
Yeah.
I've changed it.
Exactly. No, I think we forget because we are the center of our universe. So like, oh, everyone's going to know that I said it's at this time. And then it's, oh no, maybe not times. You should probably let people know about times. But, when I do captions on Instagram, sometimes I double up if I'm like, oh, that was good marketing. Because I think who's really going to see that and go, have I already read that? No one. Like, no one at all. So yeah, that's a great perspective to have. Do your business like no one is watching.
Yes. And just know that everyone else is, they're in their own stuff. They're in their own life. They're busy. They are paying like 5% attention to what you're paying 100% to. So even though you obviously want them to be engaged and follow along, and they are, but those kind of things are not having an impact. No one is paying attention to the fact that you're moving a date or you're doing it in a different format. Honestly, that is a small problem to have. It's like it's a very minor thing in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like the mum now. I say that to my son all the time. Is this a big problem or a small problem? Because it's like, blow this tiny thing up into something enormous that doesn't really need to be.
Exactly. And our brains are so good at doing that too. They're so good at making these really small things. And I think that is why, I guess, that simplicity question, it works with everything. That's why I said I'm testing it out in my personal life too. I think the other day I was frustrated about a situation. I thought, how am I making this more difficult for myself? Because we're responsible at the end of the day. You need to take 100% responsibility and control for how you feel and the results that you have in the situations that you're in. And I said, oh my gosh, I should have just asked this person to do this and then I wouldn't feel this way, right? And so you can just continue to use it sort of with everything, even as an experiment. Continue to make those small steps. Yeah. And I think as well, just in general, a good rule of thumb is that what is in alignment for you is in alignment for all. It's a universal principle. You'll find oftentimes if you move the date of a launch, for example, you'll probably have a whole influx of people saying, oh my God, thank God this date works so much better for me, right? So just keep that in mind as well, that whatever you're doing, it's in the highest good for everyone as well.
I love that. That's such a good one to remember. I will have to pay attention next time that happens and see what goes on. But that's amazing. Now, I guess one final tip, being your integrator hat on, if someone's like, okay, I need to get a bit more order in my life, my business, what would be your number one system that just helps to give you that simplicity, that would help you to manage your business and feel less scattered?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd have one system that could apply as a blanket, but I would really take the simplicity tip, that simplicity question method. I'm going to have to figure out a term for it, I suppose. But I guess when it comes to starting your business, you have the problem. Take that problem. Say the problem is you're not making any money, right? Oh my gosh, I have a business and I'm still not making any money. Okay. I would step back, right? That's the first part with any problem, is you need to just slow down. Like, don't let your brain overtake you. Really think about it and think, how can I make this process simpler? How can I take away some steps, right? And you'll find, oh my goodness, I thought that the only way that I could make money in my business was to sign up with Kajabi and host my online course there. No, you don't need to do that. You could use YouTube, right? Like you could do, I can do this with anything. Like you can give me any situation. I'll be like, no, you don't need to do it like that, because I've had so much practice in my own brain. But I've had clients who I say to them, what do you want to do? They want to have one-on-one clients, but I can't start yet. And I say, why? And they say, well, I don't have a website. And I said, since when do you need a website to have one-on-one clients? Since when do you need a social media to have one-on-one clients? And one of my clients said, oh, okay. And they came back to me next week and they messaged someone on social media. They were like, wow, I really love your website. I love your products. I just bought one. And hey, I'm actually a coach. Like, do you want coaching? Boom, booked a client. No website, no social media, just, oh, well, I can get clients anywhere. All I need is me, right?
Exactly.
And so I think when you take that problem and you really put your ego to the side and get creative about how you can have what you want, I think that's when you'll find you start making progress. How am I making booking my first client really difficult? Do I think I need to have my website? Do I think I need a podcast before I can book paid clients? No. Do I need, like I said, you need a bank account. If you're booking in someone face to face, you don't even need that. You just need cash. So
identify the barrier, right? Like it's often that thing that's right in front of us that you think you need to have, but actually ask the question instead, like, well, how could I do it without that? Yeah, I love that. You're so right. It's like there's always this barrier that we've put in our way. And so the sooner we can identify what that barrier is and then actually look for the other solution, because there's always more than one. There's always more than one way.
And I think, as soon as you take that back and you get into what's important, right? Then you're not focusing on your website. You're not focusing on which payment provider you're going to use. You're focusing on providing value for your clients, or you're creating your digital product, making it as good as possible. And that is what is going to make you money, not your website, not your podcast, but you and the value that you can provide. So as soon as you step into that space, start attracting more and more clients, more and more money, and then you can just hire people to do the other stuff, really. That's probably my number one integrated tip. Just hire for all the stuff you don't want to do.
Focus on earning the money, and then you can hire people to do all that other stuff. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the funny thing, isn't it? Because actually often if you get the client in, it can shape what it is that you're actually wanting to put out there or create. Whereas when you're trying to create from a place of nothing, it can be so much harder, because you're trying to envision what's going to happen in the future. What is it that people want, and what do they say, and how do I talk to them? Like, well, how about you actually just start getting some people, and then you know what you want to say, you know who you're talking to, you know what you're offering them. Like, it's like, let's approach it backwards. Let's flip it on its head.
It's actually
the other way around.
It's weird that we tend to do online business backwards, and we think we need all the systems first. And obviously you will get to a place, particularly if you're a visionary, where you're like, I have too many clients. That's not a bad problem, right? You'd rather have the problem, I have too many clients and I'm struggling to manage them, versus I have no clients and no money. So I think if we start to work backwards, or how I like to look at it forwards, and focusing, I mean, even just that, right? Not only does it put you focus on value, but service. All of a sudden, you're not spending all your brain power on the stuff that's not revenue generating or value providing. No one cares about your link tree. Send them a message, give people a phone call. Like, we can do it old school here. And sometimes that works best. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is nothing that you must have. You can do it any way you want. Yeah, I had a client last year who was in my program, and she didn't have a website, and she was really hung up about it. And I was like, is it stopping you from creating your audience? Is it stopping you from being out there? And she still doesn't have one today. And she's got clients. She's doing really well. She's like, she is going to build one. Like, that's always part of the plan. But the need to have one is gone, because she's now proven to herself that it's not necessary to have one. And it's so good, isn't it? Because all these things are good things to have. They all add value, but they're not necessary. So the fastest way to that success is take the shortest route there. Let's actually just focus on the things that you need to have to get there.
Yeah.
Well done. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I feel really, just feel really relaxed. Like, it is simple. Let's stop complicating it.
Yes, I know. And you know what? It's the worst thing as well, because as soon as you take that perspective, you realize you can just control the outcome. You can't be like, well, I can't do it because it's too hard. You're going to be like, hang on a second. There is a way that I can do it, even if I don't want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll find when you apply, you start to feel a lot better and let go a lot of the things that you don't even need to think about anymore, and just sit with the good stuff and sit with the slower progress. We can call it slow cooked results, but that's the thing. Like, we can say, slower, but it's not. Like, it's a lot slower to build your website page by page and try and make money that way than by just calling up someone and saying, hey, do you want to book me? Like, that's a quicker way to get to the end goal. So yeah.
Love it. That's amazing. So if anyone wants to connect with you and reach out and say hi, where can they best find you?
Of course. I'm liking Instagram the most at the moment. So it's at thecrystal.vision on Instagram. Yeah, just send me a message. Like, we can just have a chat, just like talking to new people. And you can find all my links on Instagram as well. I have that masterclass, my launch I was talking about. It's automated now. See, I'm just trying to do as little as possible. I just want to create it and let anyone who wants to watch it. So that's free and it's in my bio. I also have a podcast where you can find Jessica, The Crystal Vision, on Apple and Spotify. Yeah, that's probably best. Love to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you. We'll link up all of those in the show notes, so you can just dive there and you'll be able to find Olivia at The Crystal Vision in the show notes. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for listening in, and thank you for being here, Olivia. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Do you know what the #1 challenge reported by the women joining my Facebook community, My Tribe, said that they were struggling with their marketing in 2021, and in fact even in 2020 as well? And that was exactly how they should reach their ideal client. How do they even get in front of them in order to build their audience in the first place? That was it, and it wasn't a pick and mix. I didn't give them that answer. It was a free text question, so they could write in there anything they wanted at all. And the number of times that I saw somebody say, how to create awareness, how to get in front of my ideal client and build my audience. So many people just challenged by it. And why is that when there's such an abundance of ways that we can get in front of the ideal client? And I think it's probably that is exactly it. It's so overwhelming, isn't it? What should you do? What should you choose? What are the best ways? Whatever it is that you're doing right now might not be working. And I think it's a great time to sit back, reflect, and figure out what's the right way for you to do it. What are the ways that you're going to reach your prospective clients in 2022? So if that sounds like you, if that might have been what you wrote down in the questions on what is your biggest challenge with your marketing currently, then you're going to absolutely love the new freebie that I've just put together for you. It's called 12 Brilliant Ways to Reach Your Ideal Client. And in it, I share with you the 12, in my view, 12 top ways that you could use in your marketing plan this year to reach a bigger, broader audience in order to attract those ideal clients in to your inner circle, into your, really well-defined audience and become real leads for you. So if you'd like to get your hands on this brand new freebie, then all you need to do is go to jessicaosborne.com/12 ways. So it's 12 ways. Very easy. You can download it there, and this is a little bit of great resource for your planning, for the planning of the new year. See what you're going to change up. What is it that you maybe haven't been doing that you could be doing? And what are those things that you've been doing and they're not very effective, and maybe you're going to drop them out of your plan this year? So please head over, grab the freebie. If you want the link, it's in the show notes, and let's get you moving on up, having more success with your marketing in 2022.